Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour, and I am so excited to bring you another Brand Builders Group friend. I might be a little obsessed with my friends over at Brand Builders Group, but that's because they have such wonderful things going on that I just want to bring them onto the podcast and share them with you. So let me introduce to you Georgi Enthoven. Hi, Georgi.
Hi, Becca. Thank you for having me. I'm really thrilled at the opportunity to be here with you.
Yeah, so happy to have you on. And for the listeners, Georgi is debuting her first book, Work That's Worth It, and she's also a podcaster. So make sure to follow her. If you love this episode, give her some love. She's got a first book going out. I would love for you guys to support her as she goes into her author journey. And Georgi, that's going to put us at the first question. So what's the background? Like, how did you get to a point of putting together this book? I'm just obsessed with the title, Work That's Worth It, because if you're working and work that's worth it, it's going to be worth it. And so it's so cool, but I want to hear more.
Yeah, that's so nice. Well, first I'll say I am just over 50 and I am reinventing myself and my career. And so for your listeners out there, I just want to let you know is there's still lots of energy in the tank. So go write those unwritten songs and invest in yourself.
Yes.
But the book for me, I have 3 children and I think a lot about the future that we're leaving them. And I'm genuinely concerned about the state of the planet and how we're leaving it to our kids. My background is in business, and I had read an article in the Harvard Business Review that the average career is 90,000 hours. And I thought,
wow,
that is just such an enormous amount of time. And when you're starting out in your career, especially, but at any stage, we're just going to assume you're rich in hours. And we're equally rich in hours. We don't know what life's going to, how life's going to flow, but we can make the assumption that we're rich in hours. And then how do we want to use those hours? And so I thought about who can I introduce my children to that are doing amazing things in the world, but are not self-sacrificing their own well-being to do so. And that is really what I ended up framing the book around. And I interviewed lots of interesting people in the book doing all sorts of incredible work. And I have these different pillars that help people understand how to get themselves closer to a calling, something that they feel really aligned with. And it's that type of work that's worth it, where you're not having to show up as 2 different people at work one and then off work at another. It is a large part of your life, but you're excited about it. You're proud of it. You want to be known for it. Yeah, that's what I'm really passionate about.
I mean, I can feel your passion through the screen, and I'm loving it. And it also just reminds me of I think the first thing that there's 3 or 4 things that you said. I'm I could go so many different ways. But the first thing that comes to my mind is this 90,000 hours. In my head, I was I want to grab a calculator right now. I've been in tech sales for almost 20 years, and in my B2B corporate sales leader / sales executive stuff for 22 years. And I'm how long have I been doing this for? How many hours is that? So
actually, I have a little fun calculator on my website, georgienthoven.com, which will help you say how many hours you have left in your career. But the top line summary is every 5 years is about 10,000 hours, and the time goes quickly. And what I think what I've loved about this number, 90,000 hours, is it feels powerful. If you can direct it to something you really care about and has meaning for you, that's a lot of time. And in the same sense, it also sort of highlights where you're spending a lot of time not being really intentional or focused on what you want. And years are slipping by and you're maybe next year, maybe next year. This is your time. And we get to live this one beautiful life. And so how you use that time is really something to spend time thinking about.
I mean, incredible. And I mean, how powerful is that? Listeners, think about this topic. How many hours could you dedicate to doing the thing you love, or curating? I'm so big on passion. And I mean, so many of the topics that you're already introducing in this conversation, again, my brain, I do have ADHD, and it's woo! I can take this in so many different directions in a good way. I'm so excited. But the truth is that so many people do sit in a career because they feel like they have to, not because they want to, right? And so what I love about, and I would love for you to share more of your thoughts on this, but what benefit does someone have by working in the work that they like versus just working in the work that they can do?
Yeah. Well, I will say that so many people that I've talked to over the last 3 years in research that do have ADHD, it almost gives you a head start and a gift at figuring out work you're aligned with and interested in, because you cannot not do that. So I
True
actually
story.
find with ADHD, it almost gives you an advantage on figuring out what can continue to motivate you to get out of bed. And you don't have the ability to go do something boring day after day after day. So I think the ADHDers in the that are
Hey, I have a
listening,
lot of those in
yeah,
my
this
listenership. Like, hello, guys, we have a superpower.
yeah, this really helps. But I think one of the important things that I work through in my book is figuring out what your contribution is. And when kids graduate from school, college, or it's like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? But nobody's asking you, what do you care about? What would you love to change in the world and
Ooh,
make
that's a
better?
different subset of questions, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's this kind of programming that sort of keeps us on this narrow track of getting a job and then fitting into a title, leaving half our personality or half our skill set off the table, and looking up to that one or maybe two next steps in your career only. And if you can figure out what your contribution is that you want to make in the world at an early stage, you can shape your career around that. And that is when it becomes like really powerful. And I mean, like, best of class example, someone like Jane Goodall. But there's so many examples now. And when I was starting out trying to figure out my career, I really wanted to do good in the world. But I graduated from UC Berkeley and I was in the Bay Area, and the tech industry was starting to boom. And I got sucked into tech because I couldn't find a job that did, like, in quotes, the good in the world that felt like it matched my ambition. And so I ended up in tech and loved the ambition piece and moved up quickly and worked really hard. But then I had to fit the soul and the heart piece on the side. And I
Yeah.
kept doing that and noticing it. And then after kids, I flipped completely to the other side and I focused very much on the doing good piece because it needed to be something more important than spending time with my children. But what I noticed is when you're not compensated for the work sufficiently, you also don't have the motivation to keep going. So
Amen,
that is,
sister.
yeah, that is part of my like ideal, is where it's good for you and good for the world. Like, you are being compensated. And that also, which I really am passionate about, is how do we get the really kind-hearted, good people in the world to play bigger, to have a bigger voice? And that's not staying small. And so when really amazing, wonderful humans are working in really small not-for-profits, I want them to be on bigger stages. Let's get them in C-suites. Let's get them making the decisions that we really need to create this better world.
I love that so much. And I enjoy both parts of that and happen to be in full alignment with that theory. Like, just in my own life, like, I have also experienced both sides of the coin. I was a senior leader for an organization where I did experience extreme burnout. And one of the reasons that I burnt out is because the work was meaningful, yet I was severely undercompensated. So that, I realized, was a recipe for disaster. It destroyed my self-worth and my self-value. And then I had to build it back up. And I had points earlier in my career where I was making a lot of money, but it didn't feel meaningful. So then I was left with like strong feelings of unfulfillment and that I'm not doing, because I am a do-gooder at heart and I have to have meaningful work. So anyways, through experience, so now I have all this, the contribution work that I do through my writing and through podcasting and coaching and different stuff, keynotes and all the stuff that I do. And I still work for Cisco Systems. I work full time, but I am in the tech industry in an architecture that lights me up because I do network transformation. Kind of dorky. Anyway, we don't have to get into all that, but I love transformation. I love personal transformation. I love professional transformation. I love business transformation. And so as long as I am helping organizations be able to make, when I sell the new style of networking, which is software, is kind of dorky, but I want to share, like, the point of this conversation is that you can tie your meaning into something, into a
Absolutely.
corporation, if
Yeah,
it aligns. And so for me, like, being able to reduce the energy footprint and the amount of routers that are in the world, like,
that's
that's,
motivating.
isn't that cool? Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
so
dorky,
motivating.
but it's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, I impact the world. I
Yeah.
swear I
And I
do.
love, Becca, what you just said, their story, because it's the story that I heard so much. I then developed a framework around it. But you started off as the unrewarded do gooder. And the word burnout is, I love that you used that word because that's what I heard over and over again. And so that, and the worst I heard of that is I'm in a pit of despair. And it's,
Wow.
these are
Yes.
like the good hearted people. Like we need energy to these people so they can keep going. And
Yes.
then the other flip of that, which I did exactly the flips that you did, but maybe in the different order, is the uninspired achiever. Sometimes it's also because out of necessity, and there's no judgment. You say where you are and what you want. But sometimes people say, listen, I did not grow up with access to many things and I just need safety. And so my career is only for money. That's all it is. But those people eventually get to the point where they have achieved what they want, and
Yes.
making sure that you can pause the hamster wheel of success to combine something that really is impactful and life giving to you. There will be a point where you can step off that hamster wheel and start contributing to something that is sort of very aligned of who you want to be and the kinds of people you want to be around.
Yes. My body of work, I call it the power of and. I am like, when I finally, it felt like my heart and brain, like my whole world, like expanded. I remember feeling it. It was like when
Yes.
I realized that I could create the and, that I could have meaningful work and get paid for it and still be an awesome mom and still be a tree hugging yogi, I was like, this is amazing. Like I wanted to just like shout it from the rooftops. I was like, guys, the and.
Yes, I 100%. That is part of a conclusion that I've come to after 3 years of researching the book is please remember, and I can do something that's good for the world and good for me. And if you are not thinking like that, you can very easily feel like you have an either or choice. And that's what I lived for a long time. And I don't want people to see that as their only
Yes.
option. I want them to know that they can find this fulfillment. And Becca, when you were showing us like how you're feeling, you just did this like expansion move of like arms out, heart out. And you know when you're there, you can feel
Yes.
it.
Oh
You
my
are
God, I get
feel,
the goosebumps. I still
yeah.
remember it. And it was so visceral. And that was like 8, 9 years ago, but I still
And you're
remember
such
the
more of an exciting person to be around for other people, and so you're attracting these incredible people into your life and conversations, and so
so
it has
cool.
this upward spiral effect where
I like how you said that too for the listeners. It's an upward
yeah,
spiral, right? Instead of a
yeah,
downward spiral. That's really cool. What I'd like to ask you next is, I mean, we're already kind of talking about it, but I want to ask the direct question, like, how could embracing this concept that you're talking about really help someone empower and improve their life?
yeah. Well, for me, okay, so work is a third of your adult life, so you're going to sleep and work about the same amount, and then you're going to have like a little bit of time left, so it's a really important part to get right. And if you're happy at work, you will feel so much more fulfilled. So I think a lot of people say work can't be fulfilling or don't focus it, it's really for generating income. And yes, but there's so many opportunities now where you can actually combine it. So back to our and, but I think you feel happier as a person showing up every day, spending that time contributing to work. But the other aspects are the people that you get to surround yourself by when you're doing really meaningful work is so different because, first of all, you get to see a whole person, a holistic person, versus just a silo of them that shows up in a particular corporate job just to do the job. And I'm a big journey person. Along the journey, people for me are so important. And what I've noticed in the people that I've worked with is the ones that I call are disruptors for good or doing good for them and good for the world. They're so enthralled by the day to day journey and the people that they get to spend time with and contribute towards, either the people their work is contributing towards, so they get the feedback loop and they say it's just incredible to work in giving these people these opportunity in jobs for the first time, or helping people with diabetes, or getting somebody homeless into a shelter, whatever it is. They feel so elated. But then it's also the coworkers and the ecosystem that they get to work around, get to work in. And it's funny because sometimes I do come across people who are definitely in this disruptor for good category, and they say, wait, isn't everybody doing this? Because their whole world is surrounded by these good humans. And that is a really fulfilling, lovely place to spend your life. And
It
so much of our
is.
time is at work. So why not?
It's so awesome. I mean, like, I am in such alignment with you. Like, if I could get a megaphone, I would do it. Like, do meaningful work and get paid for it. It's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. Well, it has to feel worth it, right? Even if you are in a corporation and you need the steady income, what can you do in that corporation to include the impact that you want to make in the world?
I think
So
that's a really great point, Georgie, that I want to just build off of because the trap that people get into in corporate America is like they have to climb the ladder to advance or they have to climb the ladder to be fulfilled. And that's not necessarily true. Within myself, I have been a sales leader for more than half my year. I made it up, or half my career. I've made it up to senior director level, sat on an executive board. But right now, I am an independent contributor. I am an executive level salesperson, but I'm an independent contributor. I don't want to move up the ladder because I get a lot of my fulfillment. I do get fulfillment from my job, but I get so much more from being able to have the space to write and to podcast and go speak at organizations and it not collide with my work. There's a synergy between both worlds, and that's really great. But there is a leader inside me that I get to express through my thought leadership path. But at Cisco, I still have that inner leader that wants to express herself. So I engage more in like our inclusion communities and stuff rather than trying to climb the corporate ladder. I find other ways that I get to flex that muscle so that the fulfillment happens. And so sometimes the path to fulfillment might be more sideways than up. And I just wanted to see what you thought.
I believe humans are good. And I think we get enormous joy when we are doing good for the world. I think we're wired that way. I think sometimes conditioning makes it so we don't tap into that. But I believe at the base of every human is a good human. And I love what you're saying, because one of the trends that's happening now with AI and the workforce coming and entering in super fast, and also just the way the market is, our teams are being really stretched to be very fiscally responsible. And what that means is people are not giving extra where they aren't being compensated for it. So mentorship for young people is a big one. And people are not spending the time to mentor young people because they're not being incented on it. And that is a big shift from when I started out in the workforce and people invested in me, and now where there's a lot of remote work. And so the young people are missing out.
I've noticed too that the remote work has impacted mentorship big time.
And the young people are missing out and they feel it. And sometimes they're taking the initiative on their own to set up programs or to integrate some kind of connection. I just talked to a fabulous young Gen Z woman recently who set up the year of her coffee chats. So she went and met everybody in the organization, and she just decided this year, I'm going to meet everybody with no objective, no agenda. I just want to meet them. And so young people are actually having to take initiative because it's not built into the system. But that giving that you talked about is because of you're a good human, and you're not getting paid for it, but it feels good. It feels good. Like you're a connector. You're somebody who lights up with other people, and you would love, I mean, I don't know, I'm guessing you're like this given our short conversation and listening to some of your podcasts, but sometimes like you can't help, but it feels so good to engage and connect with somebody that you actually are getting a return. So you're giving, but you feel good. And that gives you
every time I podcast, I feel fabulous. I'm like, I'm meeting this other human who's doing other fabulous things. And I'm like, yeah, I leave like this. Beaming.
Yeah, happy. Me too. And that's what in my book, I do go through compensation. So I do think of it. I mean, compensation there's a financial component for sure. And everybody needs to get their needs met. And hopefully also your desires met. There's nothing wrong with wanting to go on vacation, have money to put down for a mortgage, but it's also what else gives you energy. So it's not only financial. So maybe it gives you energy to be able to work close to home, close to your parents, close to your kids. But maybe it's also working with an incredible role model that just lights you up. So in the sum of total for compensation, it's everything that's giving you energy to keep going for those 90,000 hours. And that needs to be in balance so that you can last a long time making this fantastic contribution.
Yeah, I love that you included that in compensation, because I feel that I get really big into societal molding and that the formula just doesn't always work. But I say that because I feel that so many of us are just taught about compensation being the fiscal part. And like, obviously, like you're saying, it's super important because it does pay our bills and it does give us the freedom to do the things that we want. But you know what? Like when you include those other things in your compensation, you are filling yourself up from the inside out. And kind of going how you were saying the energy thing, guys, listeners, this is what happens. Your energy is contagious. You feel a desire to connect with people. And then as you're out connecting with people, they're like, oh my God, I thought of you. Like you might hear from someone a month later being like, oh my God, I thought about you for this role. And the role was more in alignment than the one that you're currently in. Or like you get an idea or you get asked to mentor someone, or like all these, I feel that my best opportunities that have ever presented themselves to me have come when all those compensation qualities are full.
Absolutely. And that is not something someone else can say what is going to give you energy. That's something that you know.
Yeah.
But managers also, it's so important that they understand what are the aspects of a job that is going to give somebody on their team energy and momentum and commitment to keep going and to meet those. Because often it's not just a raise, it is a bigger chance to express something really important to you or to align with a project or something in the organization. Let's say it's helping women or equal pay, or it could be something with the environment. And so, how can you allow people to find something that they really care about within the organization? And that gives them energy. And you'll be surprised because then they have meaning to show up at work. And it's not just transactional.
I love that. And I almost want to ask another question but I want to get it kind of like back on script because I'm like, oh, I could talk to you forever. I could go down rabbit holes. This would be great. But how would the information and research that you've gone through and now put together your own frameworks for, how could someone leverage what's in your book to live a more empowered life?
Yeah. Okay. So the biggest thing that my book will do is help you get the direction right. So I sometimes like have to explain. They said, "Oh, great. Are you going to get me the job?" I don't get you the job, but what I do is help you excavate the questions that I believe are already in you. Like you already know the answers, but we've got a million things covering up
Sure.
and making it seem really hard to tap into. But I have exercises that will help you answer questions for yourself that are going to surface the information that will help you then figure out your direction. So I think that in the world we live in, like either it's AI or emails or FedEx, or we want everything fast and immediate, like your Amazon package, like want it tomorrow. This is not a tomorrow scenario. And it's going to, I mean, you could read my book and it's kind of an easy read. It's written to be an easy read. But if you want to actually do the work, that's going to take a bunch of time.
I
And
write very similarly.
yeah. And I think that time is an investment in yourself and your fulfillment. There's a Yale professor who says you either have a job or a career or a calling, and sort of your self satisfaction goes up with those. And you don't get to have a calling out of the blue. Like sometimes it really does hit you over the head, but you still have to make the personal commitment to say yes to it. And sometimes it's from a tragedy of like a kid with a
Oh, yeah.
disease, and you decide you're going to dedicate your life to that. But other times it does take more time and finesse to really notice what you're gravitating towards or what you can commit to. And I think when you find that, it really does change. It makes it so easy to what you're going to say yes to and no to after that. And that is, yeah, you want to fuel your fire, your direction, and not be sort of hitting on hundreds of things, but have like a real main goal that you're going to achieve in your lifetime.
I love that so much. I'm like, you see me smiling. I'm like, I love everything you're saying. We are winding down to the bottom of the 30. I knew it was going to go fast, and I'm so sad that it's over. Let's go ahead and share with the listeners, your website, where they can find your book. I want to make sure you get some airtime so they can keep working with you if they want to.
Yeah, that's so nice of you. And so the book called Work That's Worth It, and you can go to workthat'sworthit.com or georgienthoven.com. And I'll presume you have show notes because sometimes
Yes,
the
I
spelling
will.
can be
Yes.
weird.
All
But
that spelling will be in there for you guys.
yeah, and I'm on all the social media channels, but Instagram is probably the one that I spend the most time on. But I really do love hearing from people. And if you have questions or you would like answers of certain topics, I'm always out talking to people. I write blogs. I'm hosting a podcast that I have guests who are what I call the disruptor for good on there. And so, yeah, wherever you want to find me, I should be there and would love to hear input about what are the questions that you have that you are hoping to find answers for.
Yeah, that's awesome. And before we wrap, I want to ask you one more question. If you were to make or say an empowering statement to the listeners, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, to summarize this, I would say maybe more than a statement, I'll give you a really quick exercise. If you think of two lines, and on the top one, it's like this 0 to 10. On the top one, it's good for you. Where in your career right now, how is your career good for you? And you mark on that wherever you are. And then the next line is good for the world, and you mark on that wherever you are. And if you think in 2 years, where do you want to be on those lines? And if there's a gap, then that is your work. If it's you need something that's better for you, but you're already making a good contribution, or if you are needing to add contribution. But that really quick exercise will give you an immediate answer as to where you need to put some intentionality and direction into what you do every day.
What a beautiful gift to sign us off with. Oh my gosh. I'm just so thrilled to have you on. Listeners, please support Georgie with the purchase of the book. Do the last exercise she just shared, because work should be worth it. And I just really appreciate you coming on and spending the time talking to me and my audience about work that's worth it, because it's a passionate topic of mine. So I really appreciate
Oh,
you, Georgie. Thank you for
well,
coming
you
on.
are definitely someone that radiates energy and sunshine. So it's just been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.